Hey YouTube! This is my burnout kiln. It's a high temperature kiln that's used for the lost wax casting method. I also have a ceramics kiln over here. Can you see it? It's here. That's my little pottery kiln. It's buried under these parts for a bandsaw that I'm rebuilding. So now I'm going to head over to my day job where there's more space to work and a bigger table saw to work on, and I'm going to start building a cabinet for storing these kilns. So I start by breaking down the large sheets. This is 3/4 inch Baltic birch. Once I've got the pieces broken down, I cut rabbets all around the perimeters where I need them to be. Just test fitting there to make sure that it's the right depth and width. I glue it together and use staples to hold it together while the glue dries. I'm going to glue in the back panel, which is 1/2 inch Baltic birch, but I lost that footage. Here I am cutting a rabbet for the base frame to go together, which is going to be glued together and attached with pocket holes to the bottom of the cabinet. I put fixed casters on it so that it rolls forward and backward. I really don't need it to roll around in every direction, just forward and backward. Now, because the burnout kiln makes fumes when it's melting out wax and organic pieces, I'd like to have this fan installed in the side that will evacuate any gases and help to keep the heat down inside the cabinet. I cut a face frame out of walnut and I just glued it on. Yeah, the piece that I started with wasn't quite long enough to do the front, so the top front is done with 2 pieces, but that's fine. So I sanded, and now I'm just putting on a coat of polyurethane. So this material is called inswool. It's a ceramic fiber blanket that is extremely resistant to heat. I use it to insulate kilns or forges or furnaces. You can see there I was holding it with my hand. I would have done that with my bare hand, that's how heat resistant it is, but it's kind of like fiberglass. It leaves itchy fibers in your skin if you touch it barehanded. So I just roll it out and cut it with scissors. I'm wearing eye and breath protection for this because the fibers from this are not good for your lungs. And I just use screws with fender washers to hold it on. I also use a rigidizer, which is a liquid that you can spray on, and wherever the liquid touches when it dries, it forms a hard surface, so there aren't bare fibers trying to shed away from the blanket. This is just a bracket that screws to the frame of the fan to hold it in, and now I had to clean up my mess in this corner. You'll see that I've cleaned up this whole side of the shop and organized it. I moved a lot of my power tools over to this wall because I want to run dust collection along one wall. And so now, even though this is inconvenient to move at this phase, it'll never need to move around again in the other direction, only forward and backward. That's the only way it needs to move normally. So here it is. I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't make this top frame low enough to cover up the inswool. That was just an oversight on my part. I didn't really think about it until it was there. And I think it's really ugly, so I might come back and put in another piece of wood here to cover that up. But aside from that, I'm pretty happy with it. There's room for it. I'm gonna run the kiln and measure the internal temperature, make sure that everything's safe for it to be left unattended. It moves pretty easily. So that lets me pull it forward, turn on the fan, and eject all the hot air and fumes out through the front door when the kilns are active. And only one of them will ever be active at a time. I'm glad that I put the walnut on the front here because I already bumped into it when we were putting the kiln in. And there's a nice little ding in the front already, but that's okay. That's what that's there for, and it's not in the plywood. So if you liked this project, please hit like, please subscribe, and check back soon for more projects. You can also check out the other cabinet that I made as a Lego table for my nephew. That'll be... Thanks very much.